Separate Paths by Danny Fantod. Lisa hurried to the door when she heard Brian's motorbike pull up outside. Her father followed close behind her. Brian grinned at her as they passed on the walk. Lisa noticed that he was slightly taller than Dad when the two men stood faced each other. "Morning, Brian," her father greeted him. "Morning, Mr. Watkin," Brian replied. "You going to be careful on that thing?" Dad indicated the Honda Enduro with a nod of his head. "Yes, sir," Brian replied. "Where are you going today?" "Wakulla Springs," Brian replied. Dad's head bobbed thoughtfully a few times. "Can I ask you to have Liz back before dark?" "Yes, sir, Mr. Watkin." Dad turned to go inside, and Brian gave Lisa a big toothy smile. He took her hand and walked her back to the bike. "Your dad doesn't seem to like me much lately." Brian handed her the spare helmet. "He doesn't like your motorcycle," Lisa explained, examining the colorful scuffs on the helmet's white surface. "And he doesn't like that you grew up." Brian ran his hand over his face. "I'll be out of his hair next week." Lisa didn't reply right away. She put her hand on his jacket sleeve, traced the seam with her fingertips. "I don't want you to go," she said finally. Brian looked down, pulled on his own helmet, and threaded the strap through the buckle. "I have to go. We've already talked about that." Brian straddled the bike and kicked it to life. Lisa zipped her jacket up to the neck and climbed on the seat behind him. She put her hands on his hips until they were out of sight of the house. Then she wrapped her arms tight around his ribs and rested her chin on his shoulder. South on Route 319 they sped, south to the Florida state line, south to Tallahassee, south to Crawfordville. They stopped to pay the entrance fee to the state park and idled through the woods to the lodge. Brian pulled into a parking space and let Lisa climb off before he dismounted and put down the kickstand. "What do you think?" he asked as he untied the tail bag and put it over his shoulder. Lisa took in the scene, the Spanish-styled grand hotel among the towering pines. He had told her about this place many times, but it was much more than she expected. "It seems out of place, like something from a story." Beyond the changing rooms, the pines thinned to a clearing, and beyond that a thin sandy beach already crowded with bathers. They found a shady spot to spread their beach towels. He kept watching her face expectantly. "Hello, to Lisa," he said to her. "I'm here," she replied, her voice flat. "You gonna stay mad?" "I'm not mad." He put his arm around her, and she touched her forehead to his chin. He looked out across the wide stream, shading his eyes with his hand. "Come on, let's swim." The water was impossibly cold that lapped around their ankles. They waded out between the floats, bracing themselves with every few steps, until they were standing on tiptoe, chins just above the surface. They shivered in each other's arms in the frigid current. The water was clear as glass, and Lisa peered warily into the depths for a glimpse of the alligators that Wakulla was famous for. "Are you sure they don't come this close?" Lisa asked. "No, babe," Brian assured her. "Sounds corny, but they're more afraid of us than we are of them." "Probably too cold for them. Let's get out." The heat of the day contrasted sharply with the coldness of the water that welled up from hundreds of feet below the surface. A glass-bottomed boat took them down the river where alligators lined the banks. The guide told them who discovered the springs and when the lodge was built and how many millions of gallons of water flowed from them each day. She proudly named the movies that filmed scenes there. The helmsman circled back to the source of the water, and they looked deep down into the sapphire pool. They climbed the two-tiered diving platform and leaned on the rail while a row of children leaped off the edge under the lifeguard's feigned disinterest. Lisa studied Brian's profile. "You could get a job at the Harrison plant." "I could, maybe." His gaze fixed unwaveringly downriver. "You could get on at the co-op." "I probably could." "You could work for my dad." Brian laughed. "You could go to Votech and learn plumbing or welding." "I could do any of those things, Lisa, and maybe I will when I get back. They'll be glad to hire me too as a veteran." "I just don't think you've thought it all through." "It doesn't matter. I signed the papers. I made a commitment." He turned to her and gripped her upper arm. "Listen, babe, it's only 4 years. You'll be done with college by then, and I'll have the GI Bill, along with my enlistment bonus and what all I can save from my paycheck. It's not too late to tell them no." He turned back to the rail and squinted at the turkey vultures that wheeled overhead. "I'm not going to tell them no because I don't want to tell them no. I'm not sure where you got the idea I did." She turned her back to him and sulked. He touched her shoulder. She didn't respond. You gonna jump? He asked. No, the water's too cold. I'm gonna jump, he said. Go ahead. Nothing I say will change your mind, apparently. Brian joined the line, and Lisa half turned so that she could see him. He stood facing inward, only his toes on the edge of the platform. They made eye contact, and he smiled. She blushed and smiled back. He bent his knees and spread his arms and flipped himself backwards. She counted 1 Mississippi. Brian invited Lisa to have dinner in the hotel's dining room. The lobby of the hotel was as grand as the exterior. Everywhere Lisa looked, there was marble and mosaic tile and dark cypress paneling. Some of the decor seemed dated, but this only called to mind the style of old Florida. The dining room was a long, stately room with tall, arching windows and black iron chandeliers. The formal atmosphere was intimidating, though no one seemed to care that they wore T-shirts and jeans. It was still afternoon, so there were few other diners to share their space. Lisa looked the menu over. Kinda pricey. It's okay, he told her. Special occasion. Our last date, she murmured, not looking up. For now, he said. Fort Benning isn't that far away. After that, Fort Campbell or Bragg if I'm good enough, and I know I am. And after that, Germany or Korea, could be anywhere. Then I'll come back to Georgia. What if you like it and don't want to come back? Then you can come join me. What if I don't want to? Brian laughed softly. That's entirely up to you, Lizzie, but why don't we burn that bridge when we come to it? Lisa didn't laugh. A tear glinted in the corner of her eye. With a quaver in her voice, she asked, What if they send you to war? He didn't have an answer, just looked down at his menu. He hummed, narrowed his eyes, then said, Wow, $2.50 for a soda. You mind just having water? Lisa ordered a hamburger, well done, and Brian had the famous fried chicken. It was well worth the expense. They walked it off on a trail through the woods. Baby alligators skidded away from their approach like rabbits would back home. Brian drove them back north, hurrying to beat the curfew. A mere glimmer of the sun could be seen when they pulled up at the Watkin residence. The movement of a curtain marked their arrival. They shed their helmets and hot jackets and sat together in the porch swing as shadows stretched across the yard. I'm sorry I made you unhappy, he said in the yellow glow of the porch lamp. I'm just being a baby, she replied. Nah, you're going to miss me. It's good to be missed. Will you miss me? She asked. Well, of course. Duh. He put his arm around her. He smelled like sweat and suntan lotion and fried chicken. Can I write to you? Of course, she replied. Duh. Then I'll write every day. Not every day. Nobody does that. Every week, then. She cocked her head and thought. We'll see. They stood and walked to the steps and faced each other. Brian clasped her hands and held them between their hearts. Lisa searched his face, memorized it one last time. Then, heedless of the eyes that might be watching, she lifted her lips to his and kissed him goodbye.